So welcome back to the Rolling Crash Course. My name is Jim Schultz, and you made it, man. We are now in episode number 4 of this Rolling Crash Course. We've already laid down some rolling basics. We've gone over rolling defined risk strategies. We've gone over rolling undefined risk strategies. Well, here in episode number 4, we're going to begin to put all of that together. We're going to talk about how do you adjust your profit targets once you've rolled your position. So without further ado, let's do it, man. Let's dive right into episode number 4 of the Rolling Crash Course. All right, so your position has been tested and you've rolled accordingly, whether it's up, down, out, or some little combo deal across the board, like you've made the appropriate move. So now the question becomes, what should you do with your profit targets? Now, this is going to be a little overlap from what we've already covered in the previous episodes, but still, the thing you want to recognize first and foremost is how have your risk-return dynamics changed? Let's take a look. Remember that whether you roll a defined risk strategy or an undefined risk strategy, the objective is to reduce overall risk in the trade. This is easy to see with defined risk strategies where when you roll and you don't widen the strikes, any credit you collect goes towards decreasing your max loss and increasing your max profit. Thus, you're able to improve that risk-return dynamic in your favor. Similarly, with undefined risk strategies, if you roll the whole strategy out at the same strikes, you roll the untested side in closer to the action, or some combination of the two, again, you're improving the risk-return dynamic by taking risk off the table, decreasing your max loss and increasing your max profit. Okay, so now you can probably see that rolling and adjusting and managing your positions, like this is going to have a significant impact on that risk-return relationship. And the goal, of course, is to always improve that relationship. All right, so how should you adjust your profit targets once you've adjusted the position? Well, the answer to that question is largely going to depend on whether or not you view this role as an offensive role or a defensive role. Let's dive in deeper to what I mean by that, and let's start with what a defensive role looks like. So most roles, almost by definition, are going to be defensive in nature. The only reason that you would roll a position in the first place is if it's not going according to plan. So you won't usually find yourself feeling like you have all the leverage when you're rolling a position. Instead, with a roll, you're often just looking to plug a leak or stop the bleeding a bit before you consider your next move. Hence, the default setting you should apply to all of your rolls is that of a defensive stance. And this is probably why this whole process is often referred to as defending your position. All right, so given the fact that most rolls are defensive in nature, it kind of logically follows that we might want to consider paring down our profit targets a bit once we've rolled a position. That makes a lot of sense. Well, there are different ways that you could do this, and ultimately which one you choose is of course going to be completely up to you. But here are a few things that you can think about. So there are effectively 4 different ways that you could adjust your profit target now that you have rolled your position. First, you could keep your original profit target. Even though the target itself hasn't changed, this is very much a defensive move because your total credits collected on the position have increased, meaning you have more credits to work with, so your original target is a smaller percentage now than it was. Second, you could reduce your profit target to a smaller profit than you originally targeted. This lowers the hurdle that you need to jump over, i.e. the type of move you need the stock to make to bring the position back, making it more likely that you can hit this lower, more attainable target. Third, you could target a scratch, like just break even. There will be times when you just want the trade off your board and you'd be over the moon with a wash. Remember, you're playing defense, so turning a loser into a scratch isn't really that much different from booking an outright winner from the beginning. And fourth, you could target a small loser. These are going to be your dire situations where you're sitting on a big loss and you'd be perfectly fine with just turning the big loser into a smaller, more manageable loser. This is going to be used for extreme situations only, but sometimes you just have to wave the white flag and be realistic about your expectations. Lastly, just as a side note, even though the same basic principles apply, Due to the undefined nature of naked, undefined risk strategies, how you adjust your profit targets on undefined risk strategies is a lot more important than how you adjust your profit targets on defined risk strategies. All right, so that's pretty much everything you need to know when it comes to rolling defensively. But what about rolling offensively? Well, this situation is really only going to apply in one specific circumstance. You had 21 days to go. You have a slightly profitable position and you want to roll it out. You want to roll it out because IV is still elevated or IVR is still elevated or whatever reason you might have for keeping that position on. Well, here you're in a really, really great spot because you're going to collect a credit when you roll that position, but this position is already working. So you have a lot of leverage that you can use when it comes to adjusting your profit targets. And you could even warrant kind of ratcheting up that profit target just a little bit if you wanted to. I would just be very careful and very cautious with how you approach this because it could start to build bad habits. It might be a better, more prudent decision to maintain the original profit target that you had and just use that leverage to kind of increase the probability that you're going to get there. All right, guys, and just like that, man, we made it. Episode number 4 of the Rolling Crash course is in the books. How to adjust your profit targets on a rolled position. Don't forget, guys, if I can ever help you in any way, shape, or form, you can always email me, jschultz@tastytrade.com. We can connect on Twitter. I'm at jschultzf3. I would love to hear from you, so please reach out with any questions that you might have. But when you are ready, I will see you in episode number 5, the final episode of this crash course, and arguably, or inarguably, the most valuable episode in this whole crash course, rolling FAQ. I'll see you there.